right, Mr. Chairman.
How you doing?
Good.
How you doing?
Good to see you. Everything's going well?
Couldn't be better.
Yeah.
This is, look, would we like him to be president? Yes. Would we love him to focus on Florida for 3 years?
Absolutely. Hey, there's a
probably
time,
selfishly
there's a
better
time
for
to
us.
campaign. Now's the time to govern.
There you are.
How are you? Good to see you.
Test, 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 test. All right, everybody, we're almost about to get started. Just a reminder, all cell phones, please put it on silent. And if there are any seats, anybody on the side, if there's any available seats, feel free to fill those, and we'll get started here shortly. Thank you.
Let's just go sit.
Good morning. Thanks so much. Great to be here at NeoCity Academy. Yeah. Well, good to see you all. Good morning. Well, we're excited to be here. We're excited to be joined by our Education Commissioner, Manny Diaz, our Commerce Secretary, Alex Kelly, Osceola County Manager, Don Fisher, Brad Ferguson from Skywater Technology, and Yesenia Hernandez, who's a student here at NeoCity Academy, and they're going to be able to talk about some good stuff. Now, we have a lot of exciting things going on in the state of Florida. I think if you look at where we are in things like aerospace, aviation, military and defense, transportation, logistics, we are really, really leading the way across a lot of different industries, and this is really something that's been exciting. We have 20 major military installations, 3 spaceports, 15 deep water seaports, 20 commercial service airports, and over 100 other airports, and more than 24,000 manufacturing establishments, which is really, really good. Now, a lot that goes into some of those industries, as well as other advanced industries, is semiconductors, and the idea of these chips, which are really an essential component to many businesses, not just in our state, not just in this country, but all around the world. You actually could do everything at this point, soup to nuts, for many of these industries and not even have to leave the state of Florida, because we've put a lot of emphasis on workforce, on infrastructure, so we have an ability to have a strong supply chain here, right here domestically in the state of Florida. And the semiconductors, of course, are foundational. One of the reasons why you hear a lot of talk about the ambitions of China vis-a-vis Taiwan is because Taiwan is a major hub for chip manufacturing, and it's a lot of which you use on your devices have roots in Taiwan, and so that's something that would have major impacts on the entire economy throughout the entire world if you were able to see the CCP take over that industry, let alone Taiwan. So we want to be able to do more domestically, and this is something that we've been working for a number of years. In fact, we were here at NeoCity a couple years ago to announce an infrastructure grant for Osceola. I think Don was here at the time for NeoCity, as well as workforce education grant for Valencia College. And so they can support the same talent pipeline that we're seeing here. So because of some of the things that we've done over the past few years, Florida is now the 5th largest employer of semiconductor manufacturing in the nation. We're also a leader in advanced packaging for chips, which is an important part of the process. So we've continued to invest, including most recently, we just awarded last week $35 million in workforce capital dollars to 28 school districts for both high schools and technical colleges, including Osceola County, and 8 state colleges, including Valencia, for workforce capital costs for semiconductor education programs. So this is giving young people really good tools to be able to be in this industry. And those awards were also meant to complement the $28 million in investments that our Department of Commerce made in November for NeoCity, Valencia College, Santa Fe State College, Eastern Florida State College, and Lake Charter Technical College. That's a major impact for Central Florida with that money that has been allocated, and so we're proud to do that. And so that's a lot. So if you look at everything that we've been able to do, we've now invested about $380 million for various components of semiconductor education and infrastructure, and primarily it's education and workforce training, but we've also done things to assist with the infrastructure. So I'm just grateful to say the vast majority of the investments are workforce talent pipeline investments, and we've also done critical infrastructure like NeoCity, 23 million all told for NeoCity. And we're proud to do that. Many of these students will hopefully spend time on the job training and maybe even working here for a long time. Now, looking forward in this legislative session, we have put in the governor's recommended budget. I'm not sure both houses have picked this up yet, although I think likely one of them will soon. We're recommending $80 million for the University of Florida for a semiconductor institute. In conjunction with the University of Florida, and that's for capital costs as well as operating costs, and that'll not only be good for students, you're going to end up seeing businesses want to come and locate alongside that. So I think it's exciting opportunities, and we're continuing to get ahead. Now, everything that we're doing in this money, this is not the CHIPS Act that the federal government did. Anytime we do anything, people try to say, oh, is that Biden's money? First of all, it's your money, not Biden's money, okay? And like, they're putting you in debt to do a lot of this. But it's a different approach, I think, and while I think nationally facilitating semiconductor industry is important, and there are things you may need to do, you know, with incentives and regulatory. I think that's good. But I think what the CHIPS Act is really doing, and they haven't even given a lot of money out yet, none of it will come to the state or local communities. What they're doing is really they're just giving money to businesses individually. And so it's almost like a venture capital operation. You know, there's a lot of perils with that in terms of whether that's going to be successful or not. But that is kind of how Washington's approach is. And I think that, and we'll see what ends up happening in terms of any investments with that in the state of Florida. But there's a lot of strings attached to that. A lot of these ideas are not fully baked. And so who knows how successful that'll ultimately be. But I think what we're doing is we're really focusing on the things that are going to make a difference. Because if you look at Arizona, for example, there's the Taiwanese company's got a footprint there, and they're talking about, I guess the CHIPS Act has agreed, federal government's agreed to fund. They have trouble finding workers. They don't do. So we're meeting that demand here in Florida. We're giving opportunities for programs for students to be able to get this, and then they're going to be able to go out. There's a huge demand for this. That's been kind of our philosophy with everything we've done, is if you look, we've increased manufacturing jobs by, I think, 100,000 manufacturing jobs in the last few years. We have more manufacturing jobs than New York State does. I mean, New York State used to be one of the hubs of industry in this country. We have more manufacturing jobs. We're getting close to 500,000 manufacturing jobs. And so but what we've done, I think, and why we're attractive, yes, low tax, light regulatory burden, good place to do business, but we are working really hard to equip students with the skills necessary to succeed in these fields. Our high school students are graduating with certifications. State colleges are geared to a lot of the high demand fields, and these are things that are important. So when businesses see that, they know they have an ability to have talent coming in. And that's for something that's more sophisticated, like semiconductor, but it's also kind of basic industry that we've kind of walked away from as a country that we need to reclaim. And these are really important skills that people can develop, and these are really important jobs. So we're proud of that. So I think our approach with semiconductor compared to Washington, I think Washington's trying to pick winners and losers. There's a lot of perils in that. We're saying let's create a solid foundation in Florida, invest in the critical infrastructure, invest in workforce development and the talent pipeline. That's ultimately how you're going to be able to expand this industry here in the state of Florida. And the fact that we're now number 5 in employment, no one would have thought that was possible probably 15 or 20 years ago, and here we are doing that. So we're excited about the opportunity to secure the funding for the University of Florida Semiconductor Institute, and it may not even be located in Gainesville. They may choose to locate it somewhere else in the state under the UF banner. maybe some place where there would be more businesses likely to start and expand, and that's fine. But I think given this money, we'll be able to provide for the infrastructure and we'll be able to provide for the good workforce training. So we're excited to be here. I'm going to hear from some other folks right now. So first, we're going to hear from our Education Secretary, Manny Diaz.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you. And first and foremost, I want to thank Governor DeSantis for his unwavering commitment to workforce education, ensuring that students have essential skills for success, especially in the dynamic industries like semiconductor manufacturing. Thank you, Governor. And because of his leadership, we have partnerships, and I'm very proud of our state colleges. I see President Plinsky here and the incredible lab that you already have on your campus and the partnerships with our school districts. It's all about becoming one system under Governor DeSantis' leadership to move for opportunities for our students that are going to benefit and naturally provide for these industries to have a workforce. I also want to thank Secretary Kelly and the partnership that we've been able to forge joining the workforce and grant component with the monies that we have at the Department of Education to make this investment. $35 million, as the governor mentioned, is the education portion of this coming from the Department of Education, and we continue to lead in workforce education. In addition to the funding that's invested in programs aligned with the semiconductor industry, the Florida Department of Education has taken steps to ensure we have training programs in place to meet the workforce needs of our growing economy. Two examples of that: in October 2023, the State Board of Education approved 2 new post-secondary frameworks for semiconductor training. The first is an Associate's in Science degree in Semiconductor Engineering Technology of 60 credit hours. This is a comprehensive program to prepare students for roles in semiconductor engineering. And the second is a college credit certificate in semiconductor clean room operator, which is 18 credit hours. And this certificate is focused on specialized skills for clean room operations and semiconductor manufacturing. I had the opportunity to meet with President Plinsky to talk about that very room, which mimics a clean room, which is something essential and you have to have in the semiconductor manufacturing industry. So both programs are designed to meet the current standards of the semiconductor industry and provide students with industry-aligned knowledge in schools. This is what makes sense. This is Governor DeSantis' leadership of doing things that make sense for our students to have opportunity. Not everybody's going to go to a 4-year school. Not everybody's going to graduate. A lot of folks have the opportunity to get certificates and go straight into the workforce and make a great living, by the way, doing that without being saddled with debt. So Florida's success in career and technical education is evident with nearly 800,000 K-12 students in CTE, over 412,000 post-secondary CTE students, and more than 20,000 registered apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeship. That's where the rubber meets the road. Again, thank you, Governor DeSantis, for that and your leadership. This has resulted in over 5 million students who have participated in Florida's career and technical education coursework since 2018, when Governor DeSantis became governor of Florida. Recognizing Florida's commitment to generating 2 million new jobs by 2030, there's specific emphasis on high-demand sectors like semiconductor, aviation, energy, cybersecurity, and information technology. To support this trajectory, we will continue to prioritize workforce education, ensuring that our students here in Florida have long-term opportunities in these fields. Thank you very much again, Governor.
Okay.
Well, again, good morning. My name is Alex Kelly, Secretary of Commerce. And again, thank you, Governor, for everything you've done to give Commissioner Diaz, myself, the leadership, and really empowering us to work and be active partners with President Plinsky, with Don Fisher, with the team here at NeoCity in Osceola County and around the state. And so much of what I think the governor talked about, what we've done, has come from incredible partnership. If the president reaches out to me, if Don reaches out to me, Don really knows this. If Don reaches out to me and says, we need the Department of Commerce at a meeting, whenever that is, it could be 8 a.m. tomorrow, I'm there. That did actually happen back in August. I got up at 3 a.m. in Tallahassee and drove down here to be here. The great thing about that and the partnership that we have, the direction that we've gotten from the governor is that we're going to continue to be here. we've done so much, rolled out so much, but we're going to continue to support this community, what's happening here. This is truly a unique story, and what you're doing here is really showing the way forward for the state. The great part about that meeting where I drove down from Tallahassee very early in the morning is that the day before, the governor had given myself and Commissioner Diaz the green light to really target some of our grant programs specifically for the semiconductor industry. Don was actually pitching an investor, a venture capital investment in this work, and so I slipped that into the conversation. I think that helped. I think it went well, but that's really where we're going to be. Is we're going to be here constantly on the ground. But just a couple things. I want getting into when the governor talked about the types of investments we're making at all levels of education. I've had some very impressionable moments being here at NeoCity, here specifically at the Academy, and being over at Valencia College. When I was here back in maybe June, getting a tour of the Academy, and a couple incredible students were giving this tour, and a young man, maybe 15, maybe 16 years old, he was talking about where he'd come from, his future. He was talking about he wanted to go to either Stanford or the University of Florida. I was making the hard sell for the University of Florida. Absolutely. I started saying, well, do you need help with how Bright Futures works? I was channeling you, Secretary Davis, and then I said, and I might know a couple people at the University of Florida. I can make an introduction or two. And at maybe 16 years old, he just looked at me straight in the eye and he says, I got it. And but that's what you're doing. You're taking young minds here and you're elevating them and you're giving them the courage and the competencies and the skills to say, I got it. And it's incredible what you're going to do. And obviously, they've got this incredible environment right across the street where they can go work, grow, and learn. And you're really doing something amazing. Well, also when I went to see what the team at Valencia College is doing, it was a really interesting aspect of this educational vertical that the governor has really directed us to create. And that is at the robotics and semiconductor program there. And President, please, if I get this wrong, tell me. I believe the robotics component, 9 weeks of training, 13. Okay, I got it backwards. 13 weeks in robotics, and somehow in 5 minutes they trained me to use these robots and not mess them up. But 13 weeks in robotics, and then 9 weeks, is that right, in the semiconductor side? 22 weeks of training. I asked a question. Tell me about the students. What's their background? And the president said, we have a lot of students who are in their early 30s with just a high school diploma. And that is startling. What the governor is doing, what we're doing here, what you're doing here, you're creating an opportunity for someone with a high school diploma in their 30s who says, you know what, I want something better for me and my family. I want something better. You're creating an opportunity where in 22 weeks they can come out with a very high-skilled job that, literally it has value around the world. Please stay here in Florida, but is really, truly an incredible opportunity. So we're going to be here early, often, and again and again and again, because the governor's charge to us is really empower that education vertical at every level: high school, tech college, state college, university, research and development, really all along that way. And that obviously creates then great points of investment for Don and the team as they try to grow interest here. So again, thank you. Pleasure to be here, and we'll be back often, and look forward to continuing to support you.
All right, Don.
Governor DeSantis, thank you so much for being back at NeoCity, and thank you for your leadership, for all that you've done to make Osceola County the home for Florida's semiconductor industry. Greatly appreciate it. Honored to have you here. Thank you. As most of you know, Osceola County is remarkably reliant upon tourism. We're hypersensitive to downturns in the recession, and it was really evident for us during the Great Recession. So back about 10 years ago, the Osceola County Commission adopted a goal to grow and diversify our economy, and out of that, we see NeoCity today. And Governor, because of your support and the investments that you and the state of Florida have made into NeoCity, this positioned this site to be 5 years ahead of anyone else in the country who's pursuing a similar cluster in advanced packaging. So we're way ahead of the game when it comes to enticing industry and create those jobs for our community. Your belief in what we are doing at NeoCity has also been affirmed by the federal government. We recently received the Build Back Better grant award that the governor referred to. We're in the top 16 for the National Science Foundation Innovations Engine. And then we were recently awarded, Osceola County, $289 million, up to $289 million from the Department of Defense REACH and Cornerstone program. That makes us, to further advance packaging for the benefit and security of the United States. That makes Osceola County the only local government prime contractor for the Department of Defense. It is critical for the nation to be America's first truly complete microchip advanced packaging line, but it also fulfills our vision to create jobs for the people that live within this community. The state's 3 job growth grants that have been received by the county to build infrastructure is what's necessary to take this to the next level. The new roads, shared lab space, and secured SCIF will allow chip startup companies to mature, usher in next generation technological advances, and provide reliable and secure microchips, not only for the commercial industry, but for the government as well. When we set out to create NeoCity, we didn't do it to be in the semiconductor industry. We did it to create new job opportunities, 21st century jobs, for the people that grow up here, especially the kids. And it's really the kids that go to the entire school district, and particularly NeoCity Academy. And Yesenia Hernandez is going to speak in a moment, one of the star students that attends here. Your support and the foundational investments from the state are allowing the county and our community partners to make good on their vision. Equally important, this site will represent the front line in meeting the critical national security needs of building a domestic semiconductor industry and reshoring advanced packaging. We can't thank you enough for all of your support, and we look forward to continuing to work with you and your office to make NeoCity the capital of America's advanced packaging effort. Thank you, Governor.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. I'm very excited to be here with Governor DeSantis and our other distinguished visitors as we acknowledge the investments that are being made in education for the semiconductor industry. With the passage of the CHIPS and Science Act that the governor talked about, America is waking up to the reality that we've offshored too much of our expertise in manufacturing semiconductors. In creating the next generation of semiconductor engineers, scientists, and technicians is a critical first step in taking back the lead we once held. And so I welcome the governor's announcement in investing in education supporting semiconductors, which is critical for economic and national security. So my name is Brad Ferguson, and I'm the Senior Vice President and General Manager for one of SkyWater's lines of business. I was privileged to negotiate our entrance into Florida and to start up operations here in Kissimmee beginning in January of 2021. So SkyWater is a semiconductor manufacturer which places a heavy emphasis on developing novel technologies that provide differentiated domestic capabilities. One example is what Don Fisher referred to. A portion of the grant that he mentioned is the $120 million DoD Industrial Base Analysis and Sustainment Award announced earlier this month, where Osceola County and SkyWater will stand up the first domestic manufacturing site for DECA Technologies, market-leading advanced packaging Gen 2 technology, right here on NeoCity campus. Very exciting. So SkyWater chose Florida, and specifically NeoCity, as the perfect location to make our very first site expansion for our company outside of our headquarters in Minnesota, for many good reasons. First, the vision that local county leaders like Rep. Fred Hawkins, Commissioner Brandon Arrington, and County Manager Don Fisher had many years ago to create NeoCity and the Center for Neovation, combined with support from the state and from the University of Central Florida, created an environment for an opportunity that fit right within our business model of innovation and manufacturing. Second, it was clear from our first site to the area that Osceola County and the state was prioritizing and investing for the future. I was very impressed with the remarkable Osceola Prosper program, where high school graduates in Osceola County can get a tuition-free community college education with excellent institutions such as Valencia College. I was even more delighted to learn about the STEM activities here at NeoCity Academy. We value our partnership with NeoCity Academy and even have several interns such as Yesenia, who you'll hear from next. They are helping us improve our manufacturing operations in a real way to be more efficient and they use their eagerness and innovative thinking to help us. And last, but most importantly, it was clear from our first meetings here that the state of Florida had a recipe for success with the business-friendly climate set by Governor DeSantis. and the many stakeholders who made a point of welcoming us into the community. We've already doubled our first-year staffing and look forward to more growth very soon. So I'd like to thank Governor DeSantis, Secretary Kelly, Commissioner Diaz, for their foresight in choosing to invest in semiconductor education to educate our future workforce, and in so doing, encourage other businesses like Skywater to focus on this region as a destination for expansion in advanced semiconductor manufacturing. Thank you. And Cindy?
Hello everyone, my name is Yesenia Hernandez and I am currently a senior at NeoCity Academy. At NeoCity Academy, I am enrolled in the Artificial Intelligence pathway, where I have been diving into the fascinating world of AI and its practical applications. During my junior year, I had the incredible opportunity to intern at Skywater Technology, where I worked on various projects aimed at enhancing the Skywater Fabrication Laboratory located next to NeoCity Academy. The funding announced today will directly benefit future students like myself by providing resources and opportunities for meaningful hands-on training. I am excited to announce that I will be graduating from NeoCity Academy in the spring of 2024, and I will be continuing my academic journey at Rice University, where I will be pursuing a degree in computer science. I am grateful for the support and resources provided by NeoCity Academy and Skywater Technology, as well as the support from Governor Ron DeSantis, Commissioner of Education Manny Diaz Jr., and Secretary of Commerce Alex Kelly. Together, they have created an environment where students like me can succeed. Initiatives and funding like what is being announced today for the semiconductor industry will ensure that future generations of students will have even greater opportunities to explore and excel in fields like cybersecurity. I hope we will continue to invest in the education and the training of the next generation to become the innovators and leaders of tomorrow. Thank you all for your attention and support. Together we can build a brighter future for education and technology.
Well, congratulations on Rice. Have you spent much time in Texas? Okay. I will say this, I love the state, but Houston traffic is worse than Central Florida traffic. It is. And we're working to accelerate projects here. We did $4 billion to accelerate. A lot of it's in Central Florida because we know it's important to do. But you'll have good. It's a great school, and congratulations. And we're excited to see people be able to come out here with pathways. So the legislature's in session. This semiconductor, the institute that we're asking for, I think it will help everything that you're seeing here. It will complement that and continue to provide more opportunities. So I think that we're going to be able to get that done with the legislature. And if you take a step back and look at where the state is compared to other states, we're the #1 state for GDP growth amongst large states. Lowest unemployment amongst large states, #1 fastest growing state, #1 for net in-migration amongst any state. We are #1 in economy by CNBC, #1 in education by U.S. News. We're #1 for parental involvement in education, #1 for education freedom. We have the second lowest per capita tax burden in America, no income tax, obviously, which we want to make sure we keep. Our debt, state debt, we now have the lowest debt per capita in the entire United States. We've paid down. We've paid down 25% of the state's total debt just since I've been governor in 2019. Your share as an American of the national debt of $34 trillion is over $100,000 per citizen. Your share as a Floridian of the state of Florida's debt is about $660. And so not that you're going to ever have to fork that over, but it's like, if we really needed to do that, that would actually potentially be like, who's going to be able to come up with $100,000? So it just shows you it can be done. We're doing well. We have continued to do great things to make our state. I mean, infrastructure, we've put a lot of emphasis on infrastructure. We did the Moving Florida Forward program that's in this fiscal year, and we're going to add to it for next fiscal year. But we dedicated an additional $4 billion out of our surplus to identify projects, many of which are in Central Florida, that we can accelerate. So instead of it taking 20 years, you can get it done sooner. We're proud to have done that. We've been able to do a lot on conservation and environmental restoration. I was just down in the Everglades yesterday. We just opened the stormwater treatment area in the Everglades agricultural area. That was a pipe dream 10 years ago. No one thought that was possible. We've been able to do it. We have reservoir at St. Lucie is done. We're going to finish the one for Caloosahatchee. So all these things that we've been doing, has been great. Infrastructure, protecting environment, making sure we have clean water, important for this state, especially a maritime state, fishing, boating state. Then you look at education. We just did, in my budget, we're doing another $1.2 billion just for increases in teacher salaries. And we've done more increase in that than any governor since Florida has existed. And we're proud. So we're going to add to that. I think our per pupil is going to be more than it's ever been. Education choice more than it's ever been. I mean, you have almost 400,000 students in charter programs, 300,000+ in scholarship programs. School districts all have choice programs and magnet programs now. And so parents have never been more empowered than they are today in Florida. And there's not parents anywhere in the country that would have more meaningful choices than you would here. So we've put a lot of emphasis on education, our higher education. We've, I think, made conscious efforts to focus on education, not indoctrination in the universities. You see what's happening with some of these universities, like they're pro-Hamas. Give me a break. So we're doing all that, but then also being able to have this great fiscal situation where debt is declining, taxes have been lowered every year. We just did the permanent abolition of sales tax on all baby items in Florida. So nothing, when you have a baby, wipes, diapers, strollers, cribs, clothes, none of that. All of it's tax-free. That's family friendly. We've done other tax relief. We're going to do more this time. So we're doing it well. So we just got to keep with that formula. Our budget in Florida, New York, we have millions of more people than New York does now. And yet our budget's half the size of New York's budget. And our number of government workers, state government workers per capita is the lowest in America. So we have a small footprint. And yet, when people move from New York to Florida, what do they tell me? Oh, your roads are better, your infrastructure, your services are better, your schools, all this stuff. So, how are we able to do that with half the footprint and half the cost? It's because so much of what government does, they do things that are not essential to achieving the core interests of the community. And so we've really, I think, been smart about how we've done it. So we just got to make sure we keep that formula through the legislative session. Don't get all holy. We've got revenue coming into the state like gangbusters. I think we've had, $1 billion, $1.5 billion extra just since the start of the fiscal year. They forecast surplus, but then it's more than that because of all the revenue that's coming in, and that's just because underlying economy, even with all the problems you have nationally with the rising prices that we've seen for years now, Florida's been able to be a place that's attracting investment. So even by lowering taxes, we're getting more revenue. What you don't want to do is kind of just, throw that to the side and then just start spending money and doing obligations that are going to drag on into the future. So I think we've done it right. I think we've done it in a way that has preserved the long-term solvency of the state. And that's the thing. You look at some of these states like in Illinois, and yeah, people are fleeing there, well, partially because of crime, but partially because of taxes, which is bad. But then you look at all their unfunded liabilities, and taxes are going to go up in the future. There's no other way to do it. With Florida, you look at the declining debt and how we are, and there would not even if someone was trying to do an income tax here, there's no justification. Like, you don't need to do that. And so, not only do you have a low tax environment now, projected into the future, you're going to continue to have a low tax environment. And I think that's going to bode well for us to continue to build our economic base in industries like semiconductor and in so many other things. So I'm excited for what we're going to be able to do, over the next couple months. I think it gives us a lot of opportunities to continue to make Florida the envy of the nation. I also just think, I saw this news with Biden shutting down LNG exports or not supporting new terminals. And I just scratch my head and just wonder, what is going on? We have so much energy in this country. To be able to export that to allied countries is huge for national security. You want to weaken China, Iran, Russia, Venezuela? Export more LNG to countries around the world. And yet they're trying to say they don't want to do it because of global warming. But let me tell you something. Our energy is the cleanest in the world here in the United States. And what will happen is the developing world is going to they're going to power. They're going to electrify. Like that's just what they're going to do. They have low standard of living. It'll increase. So of course they're going to pursue that. You have an opportunity to use American LNG to help power that. And if you don't use American LNG, do you think they're going to use solar panels and windmills? No, they're going to use coal-fired power plants. And that's what China uses. That's what you'll see in the developing world. So, Biden has said that, he thinks that a nuclear war would be preferable to global warming, which was absurd. And I mean, this is ridiculous. It's become a cult. But if emissions is your number one thing, LNG exports will do more to reduce across the globe than just about anything you can do, because none of the other things they do are practical. And in Florida, the only reason we've had massive reduction in CO2 emissions is because of natural gas. And so I just scratch my head when I see that. I don't know if that's just virtue signaling to his base. But it is not good policy for this country. It's not good economic policy. It's not good energy policy. And it's not good for United States national security policy. So with that being said, happy to take a couple questions. What do we got? Well, I just outlined a lot of the priorities that we have to do. I mean, we have to maintain this state as being the most fiscally responsible, dynamic state in the country. And that's going to be something that is, we have the momentum for that. I think the legislative leaders agree with me on this. I don't even think it's something that we're at loggerheads about. I just think it's important that we look at what other states have done that has not worked. You look at what we've done, and what we've done has really, really worked. And so we're excited about that. I want to continue to pay down this debt. I just think that to be able to take all the debt that Florida has ever accumulated since the beginning of statehood and to be able to knock off 25%, maybe we get to 30, 35, 40% over the next few years, that's going to be something that's really, really significant. And I had a buddy of mine from Congress that's in the Congress now. He created a national debt clock. So, you have the national debt clock in Times Square. It's always counting up. He created one that you can wear on your jacket pocket. And so he's on the House floor, and you see the 34 trillion, and it's counting up. And just kind of trying to remind these people about what they're doing to the next generation. Not that they care, but that's just the reality. And so he gave me one, and it's interesting. It's like, it's like USB, there's GP. I don't know how he got it, but he's smart. So he did it. And I looked, I was like, that's fine. Thank you. But is there a way you can do a debt clock for the state of Florida? Because if you did one for Florida, it wouldn't be counting up, it'd be counting down. To be determined. I'm getting into that. As a parent of young kids, my kids are not on, I have a first, kindergarten, and third and 3-year-old. They're preschool. They're not on social media. My wife would go through great lengths to ensure they're not on social media. And so we don't, but what we do see is, if my wife just leaves the phone on the counter, like they will grab it, like, my son will ask Siri about the football games this weekend. They'll do this, they'll do that. And it's like, man, these devices are a big problem for kids. I think parents, they want some tools to be able to help so that their kids can grow up in the healthiest environment. And it's one thing to just say, you can't do this, but I think that there's a lot that happens in school and in society and whatever. So I do think it's a problem. I think social media has been a net negative for our youth, without question. Now, having said that, there have been other states that have tried to do similar things that have met resistance in the courts. And not to say courts are always right about this, but anything I do, I want a pathway for this to actually stick. So we're going to look through that. So what I would say is I'm sympathetic to, as a parent, what's going on with our youth. But I also understand that to just say that, someone that's 15 just cannot have it no matter what, even if the parent consents, that may create some legal issues. And so I told the speaker I'd work with them on it. So I would say that, this is something that's likely going to evolve as it gets through the House and makes its way through the Senate. And we'll see if we get a product that is going to be something that's good. But I am concerned about the breadth of it. And I want to empower parents. I want to give parents tools to be able to do this. And so I just think you got to be smart about how you do it. Yes, sir. Yeah, look, I think that what's happening in Texas is not just a Texas issue. It's an American issue. And you have a situation. We've had over 8 million people pour into this country illegally just in the last 3 years. And I've been down there. We've had people down there for years now, on and off, helping out. You've got people from China. You've got people from Iran, other parts of the Middle East, North Africa, Russia. This is not just people coming from Mexico. In fact, I bet you most people are not from Mexico, or even maybe Central America would be the bulk of it. But a lot of people, anyone that wants to do us harm, will look at that border as the easiest soft underbelly this country has right now. So I think that if the federal government is saying that it is not only not going to enforce the law, but it's going to somehow prohibit a state from faithfully enforcing the law, that is not the way this Constitution was designed. And I think that the states being able to step up, ensure the sovereignty of their territory and the sovereignty of our country is something that's appropriate. It's something that the founders envisioned if you had a derelict executive and the federal government. And I think states should be able to work together. So yes, I mean, we have EMAC requests that come in all the time from other states. And we've sent people to help California respond to wildfires and things. We've sent people to help Texas in the past, not just for immigration, but for natural disaster, and many other states. And many states have sent to Florida. Hurricane Ian, we had a lot of support that came from other states. So that's just something that we do. And if Texas, they have requested, we've got FHP, Fish and Wildlife, we've had Guard, we may do more National Guard, but we also would be willing to do the Florida State Guard. And the reason why you would want to do the State Guard is because the president would not be able to federalize the State Guard. That's the reason why we did the State Guard, grew out of the vaccine mandates that they were imposing on the military for COVID. We looked at it and said, well, wait a minute, these are young people. Most of them are in good shape anyways. A lot of them had COVID. And then especially when people were still getting infected, even if they took the jab, it's like, okay, well, why would you mandate this? So we were opposed to that. We said in the Florida National Guard, there will be no vax mandates for COVID in the National Guard, which is great, and it's good to say that. And it's great to say that, but the reality is National Guard units are administratively controlled from Washington. So our view was, okay, we'll fight them on this, but ultimately, Washington probably does have the authority to trump us on National Guard because they have administrative control. So then we did the Florida State Guard so that people would be able to go to the State Guard and not have to be subjected to this. Turns out they ended up backing down, and they never enforced the COVID vax mandate against the state of Florida, and we stood up and protected our people. We were happy to that. So we did the state guard partially for that, but then partially it's just you control your own destiny with the state guard. I mean, the federal government will grab our National Guardsmen and they'll send them all over the world in some of these missions. And some of these missions, you know, Biden isn't even standing up forthrightly to defend our troops. He's got them in Syria and Iraq and all these places, and they're just taking pot shots from there, and he's not really doing much to respond. So why should we just have people just get plucked out of here to be doing whatever these guys in Washington want? If these are people serving the state, you know, we want to be able to have control over that. So I think it's good policy to be able to allow us to fulfill requests from other states with either the National Guard or the State Guard. And the issue with the Texas border, though, if we have Florida State Guard and other states have their own state guards, then that's not something that Biden could just simply federalize. And I don't know if it's going to come to this, but just think about what does that say to the American people if you are federalizing the Texas National Guard in order to take barricades down from the border to let more people come in illegally. And the thing is it's just like, this is a lot of people. We wouldn't be able to absorb 8 million even if it was legal, because it's just the housing, the medical, the education, all this. I mean, there are places where the schools have been overwhelmed. So it's just not a way you can conduct business as a country. But if he's doing that, I mean, man, what a statement that would be, that you're going against a state who's just simply trying to uphold the law. And I would note that we've banned sanctuary cities in Florida, for example, but there are sanctuary cities in a lot of other places around this country and sanctuary states. I mean, we did a couple months ago, I did a debate with the governor of California, with Hannity, and I researched some of the stuff that goes on in California. It's a sanctuary state, they're proud of that, and then they have sanctuary cities and counties. And so you had a situation in LA where you had somebody that had been deported 3 times, big criminal rap sheet, was brought up on charges. Federal immigration said, hey, we have a detainer, turn him over so that we can then send back. And LA will not cooperate, so they just release this guy. What does he do? He murders the mother of a 3-year-old. And so that's just the nonsense that you're seeing. But the sanctuary jurisdictions, that's been going on for a long time, and yet somehow it's okay to flout federal law if you're a local or a state. But if a state just wants to enforce federal law, then somehow they're all of a sudden the bad guy. It just shows you how, this country, we've been turned upside down with some of this. There's just no common sense anymore. And this is part of the reason why we're doing so poorly. We're getting beat at the border big time, and that's having huge impacts in communities across this country, just with the fentanyl alone. Where you have tens of thousands of people that are being poisoned to death every year. That's happening in Florida. It's happening in California, New York, everywhere in this country. You're seeing it, and it's all coming from across the border. Methamphetamine now, a lot of it's coming. They used to make some of this stuff, the meth in the U.S. Now most of it's coming across the border. And that's just what you get, probably because they make it cheaper there and the border's open, so why not just bring more? So I think it's been a huge, huge problem, what's gone on. And look, if the states, if we need to stand up and ensure the sovereignty of the country, then we need to do that. So they can count on me to help from the state of Florida. I didn't quite get that. There's some students not attending school? Yeah. Okay. Is that a problem in Osceola, the truancy?
Chronic absenteeism.
Okay.
Is something that the state is experiencing. It's been something that's kind of it's been a national issue, actually. Students coming to school and being able to enforce those truancy regulations.
Yeah. Well, no. So I know it's definitely been an issue nationwide. And that, but here, look, what we're doing in Florida is, I want to have classrooms be orderly and safe, okay? And so if you have somebody who's constantly being disrupted, we just did a teacher's Bill of Rights. I don't think one student should be able to ruin it for everybody else. And so if that causes them to be suspended or not want to come, it's not ideal, but I want to make sure that you have a safe environment for the teacher and for the students. And sometimes, and if you talk to teachers, that's one of the things that they dislike most about what's happened is the disruptiveness, and they feel powerless to be able to stop it. So that was a big initiative for us. We did it, and I know this just went into effect a few months ago, and we'll see if there's more that we need to do. But I do think that that's important, and I think that some of the students, they need to be held accountable, and they need to be disciplined if they're going to be doing this. Like when I was growing up, it was not acceptable to do this nonstop or to put anybody in jeopardy of not being able to learn or certainly to be in danger. And I mean, you've seen fights and you've seen things like that. And again, this is happening all across the country, but in Florida, we want to make sure that these areas are safe. And I think you're going to end up being able to attract more talent who are going to want to be in the profession. If you're saying that we stand for safe classrooms and orderly classrooms, and it shouldn't be, the teacher shouldn't feel that if they're ensuring discipline and order that somehow they're the bad guy. I mean, that should be the standard that we have in this state and even really throughout this country. Okay, thanks you all, appreciate it. Thanks so much.